Welcome to FPTV and welcome to FPTV New Releases with myself, Andrew Sumner, and the mighty Laura Dodd, Forbidden Planet's head book buyer. And we're here in the middle of our 12 Days of Halloween event. And right now we're talking to the amazing Christine Lynn Herman about her amazing Devouring Grey duology published by our comrades at Titan Books. How are you, Christine?
I'm doing very well. Happy to be here.
And we're happy for you to be here. Thank you for joining us. Now, Laura and I were talking before we started, and Laura's name for you, by the way, is the Queen of Duologies. Yeah.
That is a high title. Oh my goodness.
It's a title you deserve, though. And we're of course again we're here to talk about the Devouring Grey duology that we published with you at Titan Books here in the UK. So, what can you tell us about those two books, Devouring Grey and the Deck of Omens?
I actually have them both right
here
because I like showing off the sprayed edges whenever I can. But the Devouring Grey, the first book, is about a teenager, Violet Saunders, who moves back to her mother's old hometown after the tragic death of her sister and realizes that her mother left for a really good reason. And it is told from three perspectives, and it gets into the messy history of the town's founders, the terrifying powers that they all have, and the ancient evil that they're supposed to be stopping and doing like a pretty bad job of. And the Deck of Omens obviously gets further into those adventures and finishes them off, and includes some new perspectives from characters who are in the Devouring Grey but don't get to, talk. And they have a lot to say.
Fantastic. I mean, as I touched upon just now, Laura's a massive fan of your work, actually, and I know that she has a ton of questions for you. So over to you, Laura.
Yes. So obviously, Deck of Omens came out at the early days of lockdown. So What was it like having a book release this year?
Well, I think a lot of people have had to deal with this in the last 6 or 7 months, but it's obviously difficult to promote your creative work when it feels like, the whole world is kind of going to hell and what's the point of anything. But all that being said, I do think that it's been cool to see how much the book community in the US and the UK have rallied around authors, have been like, we need to promote stories right now. It's important. And so that's been really incredible to see and to feel the effects of. So while obviously it wasn't how I planned it to be, in retrospect, I'm really grateful for everything that other people did to make me feel like I was still having a special moment.
Yes, yeah. Did you manage to do a launch of sorts?
Or? Yeah, I did. And thankfully the two writer friends I was going to do it with were available for a video launch. And this was in the earlier days of getting video events together. So now I think it's more of a well-oiled machine. But we were a little worried, but it went off without a hitch. It was awesome. My local indie bookstore did a great job. So really no complaints. I wish I'd been able to go in person, but like I said, everyone accommodated, and that was kind of cool to see.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's so interesting about the lockdown, isn't it? We've all become sort of experts in meeting on a technological level very, very quickly. So now the way we're doing this interview is the norm. We'd love to have you as a guest at the store in central London, but the next best alternative to that is everybody's mastered this kind of technology really super quickly. And whoever it is, it's kind of really gratifying, actually.
And I think from an accessibility perspective, it's amazing as well. Obviously, I live here. I probably wouldn't have flown in just for this interview, as happy as I am to be giving it. But now we can do it like this. And I've seen so many people who, live in places where they don't usually get big conferences, or they can't travel for a variety of reasons. Now they get to be part of events and conferences that they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So it's a silver lining.
Yeah, that is undoubtedly the silver lining. Mm-hmm. Now, Laura, we were talking before, and I wonder if you could further this theme a bit about some of the overtones that we were finding in Christine's work.
Yes, yeah, kind of overtones of Riverdale, classic kind of Twin Peaks. Are you kind of a fan of those programs, or did they kind of help inspire you in any way?
I mean, I love Twin Peaks. Who doesn't love Twin Peaks? But I actually did not watch either Twin Peaks or Riverdale until this book was like well into its like third draft. I think what inspired it was a lifelong love of like I grew up, I moved around a lot growing up, but the place I lived the longest was on these like acres of woods, and I would spend a lot of time just running around in the forest as a kid and reading a lot of books where kids found like weird magical secrets and worlds in forests. A lot of the time they're a pretty common trope, and so I just would kind of let my imagination run wild, and I think like I wanted to be in the first 5 minutes of a horror movie without really thinking the whole thing through because I was like 8 or 9. So I think it's born of that, of a big imagination, of a love for like creepy horror-y stuff. I would say there's also this like, I really, really love like more paranormal ebooks, but I wanted to put like a more modern spin on it. I've always had a soft spot for like New Girl, small town supernatural doings, but maybe I think the way I wanted to do it was a lot more like cerebral and focused on like a whole group of people instead of just one person, because I like getting inside a lot of people's heads. So the ensemble nature of Riverdale and Twin Peaks is actually pretty cool for that. But yeah, when I saw Riverdale, I was like, oh, I had trouble finding comp titles for this book when I first started writing it. And then within like 6 months, Stranger Things and Riverdale came out, and I was like, oh, someone might buy this now.
I mean, I too, obviously, a much longer time ago than yourself, also grew up in a heavily wooded area in the suburbs of Liverpool, and I mean, I spent a lot of time thrashing around those woods when I was a kid, and they massively invade your subconscious, and you never really leave. You never really lose it. I mean, that feeling of being truly alone. It's one thing feeling truly alone when you're walking around the centre of a city, but when you're in the middle of a forest, it's another feeling entirely. Particularly when you're young, you know. I mean, and I think it's a very powerful and resonant thing. And I think now that we've had this conversation, I can absolutely feel that in your work. You know, the imprint of that. It's like a piece of the puzzle being explained to me.
Yeah, I think that stuff, just when it gets rooted really deep in your subconscious, it never comes out.
It never leaves.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, excellent. Wise words, I think. Laura.
Yes. So we're just going to obviously briefly mention, not too many spoilers, obviously, but All of Us Villains is your new YA duology coming out 2021 with Tortine in the US, and it's a co-authored project. So how did this differ for you, kind of co-authoring?
Well, my co-author, Amanda Foodie, is my best friend and also another author. And so it was pretty organic. We had, back in the day, we used to G-chat each other at our day jobs. And one day we were talking about how cool it would be to write a book together, and the idea sort of just happened. And then by the end of the day, we had like a Google Doc for it. We worked on the book for like 3 years over the course of her releasing 3 books and me releasing 2 books, and like so many life changes and so many personal changes. But basically it is a book that is it's a death tournament book, but it also kind of unpacks the entire idea of what that would mean. It's also got a lot of POVs. It's also, it's bloody and weird and funny and messed up. And I think that people who like the Devouring Grey and the Deck of Omens, it's different enough that it feels like its own thing, but I also can see like the mark that I left on it. It's still got a lot of that stuff. I think I'm not done unpacking it yet.
No, that's fair. Did you write alternate chapters, or did you split characters, or how did you do the writing?
So when we first started out, there are 4 POVs, we each took 2, but since then we've been over the book so many times and edited each other's POVs so many times that honestly it doesn't even feel like anything belongs to anyone anymore, which is how I wanted it to feel. You know, if you're gonna do something with another person, you want it to all feel like both of yours. We didn't want it to feel like half one person's, you know?
Yeah.
That is fascinating that you sort of mind melded together during the process. And you don't know, well, one point of view begins with one author and the other one ends. I think that's kind of fascinating, sort of a metaphor for friendship, really.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And I think I only could have really done it with her because it takes a lot of trust in somebody else to be able to do that. And we had already been like swapping like manuscripts and stuff like that. We were critique partners for a long time. And so we already knew what it was like to get really kind of deep in each other's writing and like edit it and ask questions about it. So it was, when we were doing it together, it was just almost, it was easier because then, you know, it's not just saying, hey, maybe you could make this change here. It's like, oh, I can just make this change here.
Yeah. One of the things that I love about your books, about the ones that were being published, the ones that are coming, and the ones that are being announced, is your titles. I think your titles are exceptional. You know, really good and really compelling. And your next project has got another epic title, which is The Drowning Summer. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's coming in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can you give us a flavour of that at all?
Of course, I'm really proud of The Drowning Summer. It is another young adult contemporary fantasy. It's set on Long Island, which is where I lived in the woods and is where most of my family lives now. And it is about these two teenage mediums. It's got a lot of spooky ocean stuff. And there are these two girls who are trying to solve this triple murder that ripped through their town when they were kids and messed up both of their families for very different reasons. And they're also falling in love along the way. So it's the story of like queer first love, but also about like, you know, trauma, growing up, healing, spooky ocean ghosts, the whole package.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. That sounds truly awesome, Laura. And we're sprinting towards the end of our time together. We've got time for a few more questions.
Yes, yeah, I was just going to ask, obviously, with All of Us Villains and The Drowning Summer, is there UK publishers attached as well?
So yes, All of Us Villains will be coming out in the UK. I think I'm not allowed to say where yet, but you will be able to buy it here. And then The Drowning Summer is in the process of soon being sent out to UK publishers. Okay. And again, that's all I'm allowed to tell you.
Yeah.
But I can at least guarantee that All of Us Villains 1 and 2 are going to be out here, which is great because I love my UK readers so much.
Yeah. Like I said, such a great title. I think it's super evocative.
Thank you. I don't title most of my own books. I did title The Drowning Summer and The Deck of Omens, but the other two are the brainchildren of, actually, Amanda titled both of them. Amanda Foodie, my co-author.
Oh, fantastic. I love it. Yeah.
And such
sorry, I was just going to say... Sorry, Laura, carry on.
No. We're just, yeah. No, I was just going to say such amazing covers as well. Did you have any put in the UK covers or?
No, but I know I keep saying I love things, but I've loved working with Titan so much, it's not hard. So these covers are the brainchild of Natasha McKenzie, who is incredible and who I credit on all of my posts about them because everyone's always like, who did those covers? It's her. She's brilliant. I was sent this cover exactly as it is, and it was like, I don't have a single edit. I'm a picky person. This is perfect.
I think conceptually as a package, they're so lovely though, aren't they, with the color schemes and the colors of the end papers and everything.
They're very, very sleek and cool, and I love the way that they get at like the modern but creepy vibe with the neon. They feel very like, you know, Americana goth, but in like in a unique way. I think they speak really well to what's inside. I've always been very fond of them.
Yeah.
I think they sell more copies than anything else.
Oh yeah, and they really stand out. I remember so we run the bookstores for Comic-Con like in the UK, and it was just, you know, just putting out like your books and just people will just come rushing over because they're just like, these covers are amazing, and you're like, you should really read that, you know. If you like Stranger Things, pick Riverdale, pick that up. It was like it just catches people's attention. So yeah, beautiful job. So I was going to ask, so your books are kind of a perfect kind of combination of magic, monsters and coming of age. So where do you kind of do you read a lot of folklore and mythology? Are you kind of pulling those ideas from other places as well?
I think a lot of the I made up all of the folklore and mythology in the Devouring grade, but originally, so it's set in upstate New York, which is where I went to college. I tend to, if you'll notice a theme, when I set a book in the real world, it's in a place where I've lived for a long time or where I have like a very personal connection to. And so I went to college there. I spent 4 years there, and I really enjoyed the history of the region because, and it says in the Devouring Gray, like central and western New York are in what's called the burned over district. In like the early 1800s, there were a lot of weird cults and stuff that started there, along with some religions that are still going on today. And they called it the burned over district because they were like, oh, well, if you want to find somebody to join whatever group you're starting here, they've already been converted. You got to go somewhere else. So the idea came from like, wait, what if one of those weird little groups worshipped something that was actually like a real monster and their descendants had to deal with it? So even though I made up all of the details, it was rooted in its very basic form in actual history. For the Drowning Summer, I didn't do any of that. I did, there are like some little bits and pieces that come from like my Italian American family. Mostly a lot of the food. I've cooked all of the food in that book. But in terms of the ghosts in the ocean, I just made it up. But I do love folklore, and I do read a lot of books that draw on it, and I think that's why it's cool to almost make up your own for something. As long as, again, I feel like I'm drawing on myself.
Yeah, that actually makes complete sense. And it's a beautiful answer. Laura, I think it's time for our 12 Days of Halloween question.
Yes, yeah. So we've been asking all the authors taking part, and you can obviously be serious or be comical about this, but what scares you the most?
I feel like I can give very serious and very comical answers to this.
Please give both. That would be great.
I think what scares me the most is there's like this part of me that wants to say death, but I don't think it's that. I think it's everybody around me dying and leaving me alone. That's the serious answer, because I feel like when you love people, you make yourself very vulnerable, because then they could be taken away from you, and that's really hard. And I think that's a theme that shows up in a lot of my work. And then the less serious thing is that I'm actually really scared of bugs. And whenever one gets into my apartment, I freak out. My cat like chases it around, and I'm like, I can't deal with this. And I make my boyfriend kill it. I write these books about like these horrifying, like creepy monsters, and then one fly and I'm out.
I absolutely love the dichotomous nature of that response. I think it's fantastic. That's brilliant. I love it. So thank you very much, Christine, for spending the last half an hour with us, and thanks for taking us through, your awesome books, which, like I said, our Titan Books comrades are very proud to publish the Devouring Grey duology, and it's great to get the chance to talk to you about them. It's been so wonderful working with Titan, and so wonderful spending this half hour with both of you. Thank you so much, mate. And you can order both books direct from forbiddenplanet.com at the links attached to this interview. Thank you very much. You take care of yourself, and please come back and talk to us again. I'd love to. When all of us villains, we can do the same thing for all of us villains. It'd be great to see you then. Yeah, that sounds great. We'll get it done for sure. Yeah, okay. You take care of yourself, mate. All the very best. Best to you too.